Okay. Hi, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Um, Happy New Year, everyone. Hi, Sylvia. Great. So, oh, I feel so awkward. I haven't been on screen for a very long time. So, this is a little awkward at first, but it's going to be fine. So, hi, everybody. Welcome to today's session where I'm going to walk you through the process of becoming a community manager in 2026. So, just a few things. My background may get noisy at some point, so please forgive me in advance if it does. So, I have prepared together a slide deck for your use. So, if you want to access this, please kindly check the description below this video. Then you'll be able to access all the relevant links that I'll be mentioning all through this session. So I'm not going to spend any more time because I know that people will be joining in later and this is a live stream. So that simply means that you can always watch it anytime and every time. So I'm just going to get straight to the point. All right. So becoming a community manager in 2026, what's that about? I see Sheena from Ghana. Hi, Sheena. Great to see you here. Hi, Sylvia. Happy New Year to you too. So, for those of you seeing this face for the first time, or maybe not, my name is Mfonobong Umondia. Just in case you've been wondering, how should I pronounce that name? It's Mfonobong. But you can call me Lady Bella. And to be honest, I prefer Lady Bella. I think it sounds bougie. And I currently work as a community manager, and I'm also building my own brand, the CM Good Lab, a brand for all kinds of marketers. So if your role directly or indirectly ties to marketing, like community management, marketing through people, whatever you do that ties to, the business goals and marketing through people, then you should be a part of the CM Group Lab. And there's an icebreaker here for me. What got you excited about this live stream? So I just had to put together this so I don't lose my train of thought. I see 2026 as that year where community management is going to get more recognition than it used to. And to be honest, we're going to start seeing it as a strategic role, as a systems focused role, so it's no longer about engagement, it's no longer bringing a couple of people together to drive engagement. So it's going to be more systems thinking, more strategic thinking. Why do we have this community, and how does it tie down to business goals? And one fun thing about me is that I can gist for Africa, I can gist for the whole world. My friends know this, they know this. So if you've not known that about me, I'm a very down to earth person and I talk a lot, basically. Meaningful stuff still. Okay, so here's what to expect in today's session. Um, what this role is becoming, how to break in, and how to grow sustainably. Right. So at the end of the session, I'll also be answering some community related questions. So while the session is ongoing, if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments. During registration for this live session, there are a couple of people that also asked questions in the form. So we'll be tackling that as well at the end of this session. Okay, a few housekeeping. There's a Q&A chat in the comment section, so feel free to network, talk to each other. All the resources and slides are available in the description, so just check that. There are a couple of links there. And this recording will also be live and available on the YouTube channel after the live session has ended. It's not going anywhere. And feel free to engage with other people. The number of people that will be tuning into this session, I bet you for sure at least 85% of them are community managers or have been involved directly or indirectly with community building. So feel free to network, engage, share your ideas. And also at the end of the session, I'm going to drop a feedback form to know how the session was and what your expectations are for the next one. Okay, so here's an icebreaker for everybody watching. What's the biggest reason you're interested in community management right now? And where are you watching from? And a couple of people have already dropped in the comments where they're watching from, which is great. But what's the biggest reason you're interested in community management? Some people just do it as a side hustle, other people do it as an actual role. So, what's your own personal reason for being interested in this role? Okay, so let's get straight into it. Who is a community manager? Community management is a role that goes beyond just chatting and posting, right? It involves you intentionally designing and sustaining spaces where people feel supported, where people feel engaged, and where people feel aligned. If someone is joining your community, it is their desire to join that community and feel like their second home. It should be a space where they learn. It should be a space where they grow. It should be a space where they can talk to somebody, right? So look at a community manager as someone who sits at the intersection of people, the product, the brand, and business. So there are some product-led communities. Figma, for instance, is a product-led community. So there's the product itself, which is a design tool, and there is also the community. So for everybody that is in the Figma community, at least 80 to 90% of them use Figma, right? That's why they are there. So you get to see things like, some tools, resources, how they can better become, good designers. All right, so let's go over to the comment section to see what's going on there. Why do you want to be a community manager? Sheena says to build a community. Um, okay, to build an inclusive environment. Sylvia says, I'm looking to try out a new career path. Interesting. Simi says, I love engaging people in conversations and allowing people to grow. That's super interesting. I feel like that's a great skill for being a community manager. And it says, I want to build. Good. Kayode says, I enjoy helping people achieve their goals, especially concerning career productivity and self actualization. You're all correct. And I'm really happy that your responses are going in this direction because, to be honest, you have to be naturally passionate about people and growth before you can succeed as a community manager. Okay, so when you hear community management, you should be thinking of why that community exists You should be thinking of who it serves. You should be thinking of how people move through it. If you're building a design community, for instance, and I am a junior designer and I join your community, how are you going to help me grow and move through your community? If I'm joining as an entry level designer, what are those things you're going to do to help me grow to become a senior designer? And what does success look like for both members and the company? Don't forget that in as much as you're bringing people together to build a community, it still has to tie back down to the business goal. That's the main reason why that community even exists in the first place, right? So if you're someone that when you hear community management, you just see them as people that, post announcements, manage people, answer your questions. No, you need to get that idea out of your mind, and focus on the intentionality around the role. And then this is something you need to have at the back of your mind. Community management is not going to just be about engagement in 2026. It's going to go beyond that. Before now, we used to see a lot of companies fund community focused events. Oh, we want this company to sponsor us. And you're like, okay, how many community members do you have? And you say we have 1,000, we have 2,000, we have 4,000, and you have, they'd say, okay, we are going to sponsor with this amount of money, or we're going to sponsor with XYZ amount of money, and then you host your event. At the end of the day, there's no return on investment. A lot of companies in recent years, there's been a decline in lots of companies sponsoring events, because at the end of the day, it's not just about the hype, it's about the value, it's about the impact. So if a company gives you money to say, we're sponsoring your event of 5,000 people, what are they getting back in return? Is it just you talking about your products to 5,000 people? Right. So you need to know that companies are no longer funding communities for vibes. Oh, I want to be associated with this community because they have 20,000 people. They want actual results. If they are trying to drive RSVP for their products, they should be able to hit a certain target by partnering with your community. And you cannot get people within your community to help you reach that target if you don't have an engaged communities. So communities now support companies, rather, I was gonna say companies. Companies now support retention, product feedback, customer education, developer adoption, hiring, and revenue. There's so many things that you can do within your community to ensure that the people in your community are up to par. So if you have any form of external partnership, it will be very easy for you to move from there, right? So because of this shift, that's why you get to see that community managers are no longer just people that manage a bunch of communities and bring people together to, engage, to talk, to post, and all of that. You start seeing them in rooms where, product discussions are being had, where marketing discussions are being had. You start seeing them, work closely with operations team, you know, because they need to understand why that community exists. And if at the end of the day you don't understand why it exists and how it ties back to business goals, the things you need to do to be able to help that brand achieve their business goal, then your role becomes very fragile. You can be laid off in a snap of a finger. Okay, so here are core skills to look out for in 2026. There are lots of skills that a community manager should possess. And when I say lots, there are lots of skills. I can't even start mentioning them because there are so many. But these are top four that will be very important this year. First off is strategic thinking. You have to understand the goals and you have to understand how to achieve those goals. You have to understand the kind of actions you take to be able to get the desired outcome. So think strategically as a community manager. Secondly, you need to be data aware. You need to, move from saying, I hosted this event to saying, I planned to host this event. I expected XYZ number of people to sign up, and I expected XYZ number of people to join in. And after that event, this is the number of people that joined in, or this is the number of people that dropped off at some point. This is the number of people that stayed up to the very end. In community, every data matters because it helps you, know what to do. It helps you with further discussion, further decisions to make. And I think it's something very important. I'm going to give a typical scenario. Where I work currently at Chico Africa, we experimented something. We tried to host, because most of our activities could span for like 3 days, most of our events, so we host events in series. So we tried out two kinds of events. There was a first day event, like one event, and then we also had another event that spanned across 3 days. We had another one that spanned across 5 days. Now, what we noticed is that most of those events that spanned across 5 days, 3 days, in fact, beyond 2 days, people no longer really joined. In fact, despite the publicity that we made, we could see that there was a decline. Day one, we had more people. Day two, we still have more people, but not as much as day one. Day three, we have lesser people. Day four, we have lesser people. So we discovered that having events back to back at a stretch doesn't work for us like that. Right. So you need to understand what's going on in your community, how people are reacting to it. And if you don't know how to track data, then you're just going to find yourself behind. All right. The third one is strong communication. You need to be able to communicate with your community members. You need to be able to manage conflict. See, let me tell you, people will test your patience in this life as a community manager. If you've had that experience, let me know in the comment section. People will test your patience. People will speak to you in a way that will make you question why you decided to be a community manager. People will look you dead in the eye and feel like, you know, you owe them your time, so you're supposed to be there. You're supposed to do this. You're supposed to do that. Like sometimes it gets exhausting because most people forget that community managers are human beings too who also need help, right? So you need to be able to, you need to be someone that can handle communication effectively. You need to also be someone that can establish boundaries because at the end of the day, you're just a person. Burnout is real. And if you start burning out, what you want your community members to do, you're literally the steward. So if you're burnt out, how are they going to cope within the community? And finally, be comfortable using AI tools. It's very important. We are shifting into the world of AI. And I know people have been saying, oh, AI is going to take your job. Please, by all means, AI is not going to take your job. It's going to help you work more effectively. So get comfortable as things are evolving, tools are coming out, learn those tools, think long term. How can I use this tool to better support my work as a community manager? And then generally be friendly and nice. It's not that bad. You decided to be a people person, so you should know what comes with the job description. So always be nice, no matter what. All right. Okay, so I tried to make sure that everything we're discussing today aligns with what everyone requested for. So because I went through the registration. So getting your first community manager role. Hmm. I don't know how to explain this section, this part of the session, but I'm going to try. First of all, getting jobs through community job boards or through job boards is not the most effective way of you getting a job. Somebody say hallelujah. Oh my God. So getting now, I need to get serious. This is what I was saying, that I talk a lot. I need to get serious, back to serious business, fella. So getting jobs is not going to be through job boards. Now, let me explain that. Job boards are great. because you get to see different kinds of jobs, you get to see different kinds of roles, and you just apply. Like it's just there on one platform, so you don't even need to go out. But I need to paint you a case scenario. A couple of years back, I was still actively working as a product designer. Shortly after that, when I started transitioning into community management, I had, so before I fully transitioned into community management, I had started building my skills as a volunteer. I had started doing some things, right? So, um, this company that I learned design from a while back was hiring, and I saw it in a job board. I think I saw it in about two job boards. So I applied. Less than 2 days after, a thought crossed my mind. I said, let me check the company's website because like I really wanted a job at that point. So let me check this company's website. And I did, only for me to discover that the instructions on the website on their careers page was that you should send your cover letter, your email, your resume. So then what they request for when you're asked to send an email to a particular email address, which was their hiring email address. And I was trying to connect the dots. So I applied through a form in the job board, but now the company is saying send an email. So I sent an email, and less than 24 hours after, they got back to me saying that they had already filled the role, that they simply forgot to take it down from their website. And guess what? I was waiting. I was waiting till I think the two job boards I applied to got back to me after like 2, 3 weeks that the recruiter decided not to move on with my application. I just laughed it off because I've had similar experiences where, I applied to jobs through job boards, and at the end of the day, I just get that rejection email because I've been so expectant. Some job boards are actually really active. So I'm not saying give up on job boards. What I'm saying is whenever you see a job posting on a job board, check out that company, check their website out, check their careers page out to be sure they are actually hiring. And you take a step further by reaching out to someone that works in that company. That helps a whole lot. It really helps. Um so, as a total beginner, here are some things that you could potentially do. You can start by building experience. You can be a volunteer. I know gone are those days where people feel like, oh, I want to volunteer to build my skill. They just feel like it's punishment. It's not punishment. You are building a skill for Christ's sake. You're trying to prove your work, right? I know that for most people, you need the money, which is really important. Don't get me wrong, but if you cannot prove your skill, then how will people know that you're capable of doing the work? So start by mapping out the things that a community manager does, and then start by doing those things. You can volunteer. So for instance, moderating a Discord server or a Slack community, or running your WhatsApp community or Telegram groups, or supporting open source tech communities or other kind of communities like the creator communities. The goal is for you to get proof of work, not certificates. I know there are people that take endless courses. I want to take this course. I want to get the certification. I want to do this. I want to do. It's nice. It's all cute, right? But what do you have to show for it? Right. So always look forward to getting proofs. You know, and these things are even easy nowadays. You can just easily prompt any large language model at your disposal. Gemini, ChatGPT. You can prompt any of those and ask it to curate, you know, um, different things that a community manager does. Or let's say you can just prompt it in a way that you're trying to build a portfolio as a community manager. What are those things you can do? Definitely gonna get ideas, and you work towards doing that. Work towards, contributing to companies. And when you do this, you start applying for jobs, start shooting your shot, and then learn publicly. It's very important. As someone who is just starting and you want to get your first role, after doing all of these things, make sure you're learning publicly. Make sure people know that you're transitioning to community management and these are the things you're doing to be able to become a community manager. People are more interested in your growth, the mistakes you're making, all the fails, how you're getting up, than for you to just pop up, right? It works for some people, it doesn't work for others. So figure out what works for you. But you need to build experience, you need to build skills, build proof, and actively contribute to communities, either as a volunteer or as an intern. All right, next up are community tools. So don't forget, if you have any questions for me, please let me know in the comments. I'll be getting to them at the end of this session. So next up is community tools, your workflow. Remember that tools don't replace you. They are there to support you, right? And here are some tools that you can look out for. So for community platforms, you need to think of what kind of community platform works best for you. I always like the process of creating a community from scratch because it allows me think, where is this community heading to in the next 1 year, in the next 2 years? If we want to expand, how are we expanding? How are we moving? What are we going to do? So your community, these are some community platforms that I personally use: Slack, Discord, Circle. There is Telegram. Some people want to host their communities on WhatsApp. I don't really fancy that, but if that's what works for the brand you're working for, then that's great. So you need to understand what community platform works for your community. And then secondly, you need to be able to use tools to make your onboarding and engagement very easy. So, in terms of community tools, let me see. I know I do have a video somewhere. Right, let me just space it here. So I do have a video somewhere to learn more about that, just in case you want to dive deeper. I know a while back I made a video about choosing the right community platform for your community. So you may want to check that out. And you also need to learn different tools that can help you onboard and engage people. So tools like Notion, tools like Airtable, Google Forms, Zapier for your automations, even anything for your automations, and so many other tools out there. Imagine you're having 5,000 applications every single week. How are you going to be able to manage that? You obviously cannot onboard 5,000 people every week, or, you know, have a call with them or do certain things to bring them into the community. You have to automate at some point, to make that easy for you because you're not a robot. And then you also need to look out for analytics and some reporting tools. I have personally used Common Room before. So there's also Orbit. These are tools that can help you. And then internally, most of the tools that we use, so tools like Slack, even Circle, they have their internal analytics platform, like their internal analytics feature rather. So you don't even need to go external. You just need to be able to determine the different metrics that you're tracking. And I gave a typical case scenario. If you want to host a virtual event or an X space or a webinar, how many countries are you targeting to reach with that webinar or that space? And how many RSVPs are you looking at? What's the drop off rate? How many people are you expecting to join in and stay to the very end? And then while the session is ongoing, you track it, and then at the end of the day, you get to see what worked and what didn't. All right. So let me know if you have questions in the comments about that. And the next thing I'm going to talk about is freelancing versus full-time community roles. Freelance offers flexibility and higher earning potential, but requires discipline, systems, and confidence, while full-time roles offer stability, offer deeper ownership and learning opportunities. And I'm going to break that down shortly. So for freelancing, you have a great earning potential because you get to work with various clients who pay you. So you might work on 3, 4 projects at the same time, and you probably earn something that you get paid, probably earn your 3 month salary at once. It's great. But you need to be disciplined because you're then going to work with multiple people, multiple stakeholders. So you need to be disciplined. I also need to be disciplined in the aspect of delivering that project. You need to know your onions. That's just it. right? And you also need to be confident because there are so many unemployed people out there, and you need to be able to shoot your shot the best way that you can to be able to land opportunities as a freelancer. While full time roles, on the other hand, they offer you stability because when companies hire for full time roles, they hire because they don't just want to throw you off after a project has ended, right? Don't get me wrong, they're full time roles, they're part time roles, they're contract roles. So, like, but the idea behind it is they don't just want to throw you off after that, project has ended. You're working for them till they no longer need your services. Could be a year, could be 2 years, could be 3 years, could be till you are tired of working for them, right? Or till the general layoff that used to happen from time to time. And then working at a full-time company or working in a full-time role, you get to own the things that you're working on. So you can boldly say that you created the strategy to be able to onboard people, you handled this, you did that, and this is what it resulted as. Like you basically own your lane in that company, you own your decisions. You're able to say, I want to work on this project, I want to host this event, and you're able to do it. It ties back to the business goals, right? And this is something that is great in your portfolio. And then there are also learning opportunities because in a full-time role, you're working in a cross-functional team. There are other people there, so you're collaborating with other people. You might find yourself where you have a manager, so you're obviously learning from your manager, so like there's so many learning opportunities for you. So for me, I wouldn't say there's a better option. I would just say look at what your financial needs are, look at your experience level, and look at your ability. Right? There's some people that don't have the ability to manage multiple people. I have a friend and she always says it, see, I'm a baby girl and I don't have the strength to work multiple jobs. And I believe her because like she's a baby girl for real, right? So just choose what works for you, right? A lot of community managers do both, but do what works for you. Okay, we are getting there, almost done. If you have any questions, please kindly ask them in the comments. And then here is how to build a strong community portfolio. When you're building a community portfolio, think of results, not just the things that you did. What problems are you solving? What did you do to be able to solve that problem? And what changed as a result of what you did? Community management portfolios are not just portfolios that you write a bunch of things. This is what this community is about, this is what this community did, and that's it. I have seen a lot of portfolios like that, and I wish I could help everybody, but I cannot do that. But you need to make sure your community management portfolio is a bit more impactful than that, right? So even if you are a volunteer, you volunteered for a particular role, you did something somewhere, you have to make sure it ties back to impact. And then let me just drum this into your ears under the sound of my voice. On no account should you just blindly volunteer at a company because you want to be a volunteer. How does it tie back to your career goals? If it doesn't tie back to your career goals, then you have no business being a volunteer in that space. It's completely okay to just volunteer once in a while, do like general volunteering, do what you have to do. But if it doesn't tie back to your career goals, then you need to leave there, right? Except you're not serious. A good community portfolio shows your thinking, it shows your documentation, it shows the outcomes. You're not just screenshotting chats, people hailing you, you're not just screenshotting your community, what people are saying and all of that. You need to show the outcomes. What was the problem? What did you do? Think of it like you're answering an interview question using the STAR method. What was the situation? What was the problem? What action did you take? And what was the outcome as a result of this your action? Okay. And then up next is the Why is it moving so fast? Oh my god. Okay. Okay. So up next is creating an ATS friendly resume. Remember that I'm still talking about I don't know why this thing is misbehaving. Okay. So remember that I'm still talking about getting a job as a community manager. So I have talked about the portfolio. Now the resume. You've probably been hearing about ATS for new resumes on a timeline, and you've tried to optimize your resume, or you've tried to do whatever works and then nothing. Now let me just break down what it means. First off, ATS means application tracking system, right? And it's a platform used by recruiters. Sometimes it's inbuilt, sometimes we just use external ATS platforms. But how this is done is when a job is posted, it is posted with specific keywords depending on what role is being hired for. So there's community engagement, onboarding, retention, reporting, whatever it is that role entails, they post with keywords. And then when that is posted, you as a community manager applies to that role with your resume. And this software quickly scans your resume. If it cannot find these keywords that the recruiter is looking for, which they have already used to set up that job posting, the bin, your resume is going to go in the trash. Have you ever had an experience where you apply for a job and you get a rejection in less than 30 minutes? And sometimes in less than 24 hours. That's what usually happens. And then resumes that match moves forward. The rest just gets filtered, right? So make sure that your resumes are always ATS friendly. And if this is a typical example, if you see a job posting that says community operations manager or community operations, and there's nothing that has to do with community operations in your resume, then you're just wasting your time because it's going to look out for certain keywords around that. And if you cannot find it, the bin. Okay. And then one thing you should also have at the back of your mind is that when this software scans your resume, it scans for keywords. So how do you find keywords? You can easily copy a job description and paste it on ChatGPT, for instance, and ask ChatGPT to extract keywords from that resume or that job posting rather, and it's going to do that for you. You can use that to work with. There's also the role relevance. What do you have in your resume and what is the company looking for? If it tallies, fine. If it doesn't, then why did you apply in the first place? It also scans for structure and readability. How easy is it to read your resume? If you're still using Canva to design your resumes, I don't know what to say to you. I don't know what to say to you. You don't have to be overly stylish when designing your resume. You're trying to look for a job. So you have to make sure that it's readable and is well structured. I highly recommend you use documents, Google Docs for your resumes. It's pretty straight to the point. Do what you have to do, export it, and you're good to go. When you go to your portfolio, you can design and be as creative as possible, but just leave your resume the way it is. All right. And if at the end of the day you submit and it doesn't match what the system is looking for, trust me, a recruiter is never ever going to see that resume, except you're qualified. Even if you're qualified, right? It's not going to, because you did not input the right keywords, it didn't pass that, test or scan. And you find situations where, oh my god, I was so qualified for that role and I didn't even land an interview. It's one thing for you to apply for a job and you land an interview. And then after that interview, they're like, okay, you know what? We don't think you're a great fit, than for you to apply for a job and not even hear back from the company. Those are two different things. So know where you belong. Here's some tips for you. Use clear job titles like community manager, community associate. You don't have to be overly stylish with what your title should look like. Mirror the language from the job description. The easiest way to do this is just grab everything, job description, paste it on ChatGPT, bring your resume, paste it on ChatGPT, ask for suggestions on how you can improve that. Please don't say that Bella asked you to go and update your resume using ChatGPT. I did not say that. I only said ask for ideas, ask for suggestions, then you compare and see, keywords that you can use, things that you can update. But just always make sure that that's what it means to tailor your resume to a particular role, right? So just always make sure that you do these things to be able to get your resume ready for the ATS scan. And then focus on outcomes, not duties. This is another mistake that people do a lot. Why am I seeing your to-do lists on your resume? What has that got to do with me? Like, I'm not interested in seeing what you did. I'm interested in seeing how you did it and what you achieved as a result of what you did, right? And then use simple formatting. No columns, no icons, no pictures, no graphs. No, you just need to go straight to the point. All right. So instead of writing, I managed a vibrant Discord community, which is none of my best. I mean, none of my business. I'm happy for you. You managed a Discord community. That's super great. As a recruiter, I'm looking at saying something like, okay, so I didn't just manage a vibrant Discord community, I managed a community of 3,000 people, right? That's step one. This is the platform I managed, and this is what I did. So I improved weekly engagements by 35%, and it was through this structured onboarding and programming. And then because you're asked to input numbers and metrics in your resume, does not mean that you should just start inputting numbers 35%, 40%. Are you actually able to track what you're putting? If you say you improved engagement by 60%, how did you do it? Can you track it? Do you have the proof to show for it? So this is the same task but different outcomes, right? So imagine putting this and every other thing in your resume. It doesn't give anybody idea of what you do. So yeah, that's it. And just in case you're watching, I do offer resume writing services. So if you're interested, I'm going to give a discount to about 10 people. So just look out for that in the comment section or the description section of this video. So it can help you optimize your resume, rewrite it, and apply for your jobs. And here's what the career growth looks like. So if you have questions, please keep asking. I'm almost done. We'll get to the question segments shortly. So this is what career growth looks like. You need to also understand that community management is an actual job, is a real career. It's not something that just came out of the blue. And this is what it looks like on the map. It's different for different companies. It starts off as a community associate, become a community manager, social media, senior community manager, a lead community manager, or in most cases, community lead, community operations manager, head of community, director of community, VP of community. And each of these levels have things that, you know, there are things you need to do. So first off, community associates. This is someone that is usually within 0 to 1.5 years in the industry. So like it's an entry level role that is focused on execution and learning. So you support moderation, onboarding, member support, events, daily engagement, while also learning how communities actually run. Your goal at this stage is to understand people dynamics, tools, workflows, and basic metrics. And then you also have the community manager, typically someone within that's been in the industry for up to 3 years. So at this level, you own the community, you manage a part of it because in most companies, the team is usually larger. So at this stage, you're designing engagement strategies, you're running programs, you're tracking performance, you're acting as a bridge between members and internal teams. Your goal at this stage is to move from just doing tasks to owning outcomes. So you're not just doing stuff. As a result of what I did, this is what we achieved. That's what you should be aiming at. And then there's a senior community manager. So note that most companies have, how do I put this? most companies think of it differently. So you might be a senior community manager in company A, and you're a lead community manager in company B, or an operations community manager in company C. It all differs. So for senior community managers, these usually people up to 5 years of experience. This is where depth shows. You improve systems, you mentor junior team members, you manage complex initiatives, and clearly tie the work that you do to business results rather. So things like retention, adoption, and growth. Right at this stage, you operate independently, and then you have people that work under you, report to you, you influence decisions. And then there's community lead or lead community manager, usually someone with up to 6 years of experience. You're now leading people, you're leading strategy, you're coming up with programs, things that can run across the entire organization without any fault. So you're scaling the community, you're creating things that help scale the community, right? And then there's community operations. This is more of a back end role because community managers are actually outward people. You see their faces everywhere. You link them to, if you see this person, community manager at this company, you know this is the person. But community operations manager, their role is less visible, but it's actually very powerful because they are the people that work at the back end to ensure that the systems, the tooling, the documentation, the reporting, every process or everything that has to do with optimizing that community, and making sure it scales is on point, right? Your goal at this stage is to make community efficient, measurable, and repeatable. If new members come and you do repeated stuff, you should be able to get same results. And then if you increase this or you do this, you'll be able to get more results. And then as a head of community, usually someone with up to 9 years of experience, you own the community function, you own the strategy, you own the budgeting, you own the hiring process, you own how cross-functional alignments should look like. This is where you start high level reporting, executive reporting. You build the long term vision for the brand, right? And we also have director of community, usually someone with up to 12 years of experience. So you're just supporting growth, partnerships. You're basically at the top, a guy at the top. And there's a VP of community. Now, notice how I have also added developer relations. Now, history shows that, not history, research shows that most community managers tend to transition into DevRel. That's because DevRel is like an umbrella. So like there are different parts to it. Developer advocacy, technical writing, developer education, developer experience, community management. So community management is a part of DevRel. So you tend to see community managers in the DevRel space doing amazing work, right? So you're a DevRel person if you're a community manager. Just look at it like that. So note that titles vary by company, and some people move faster in startups and slower in enterprises. So what matters is a scope, ownership, impact, not the exact number of years or job title. You might be in this company and after a couple of years, they promote you to senior community manager. And then you go to another company and they're taking you back to community manager. So do not be stressed out when you experience any of those. Different companies have a way of structuring theirs. Okay, so who is community management for? Let's be honest with ourselves. Community management is emotional labor. I know I've said this at the beginning of this session. Like people always just want you to be there, regardless of whether you're fine or not. You deal a lot with conflict, you deal a lot with burnout risk if you're not able to set healthy boundaries. You deal a lot with ambiguity. People are going to misunderstand you, people are going to misunderstand the things that you post. And then competing priorities. The company wants to make money, at the end of the day, you have to keep people together and make them feel okay, make them feel welcome, while still trying to please the company at the same time. So, like, there's a whole lot of things to it, right? So, but in general, if you're someone that enjoys building spaces, supporting people, and thinking long term, then trust me, you can have a very fulfilling experience as a community manager. And just to add, it's not an easy field. People see community management as one very easy thing to do because you're not writing codes. I'm just going to leave it at that. Because we are not writing codes does not mean that our work is not equally important or tasking. Actually, it is. Working with people is one of the most tasking jobs out there. That's I don't know why a lot of people don't talk about it enough, but I'm just going to leave it at that. And here's my call to action for you today. Pick a community niche if you've not picked anyone yet and start making contributions. Document every single thing that you do. Keep a win folder. What did I do today? How did it help this company or this community achieve XYZ? And then start managing and supporting communities intentionally. If you're just volunteering in a role because you want to volunteer without having thinking long term, how does this impact my career in the long run? Then you're in the wrong place. You need to re-strategize and start contributing intentionally. And then also learn how to communicate your impact clearly. This is one of the things I used to struggle with. I feel like I still struggle with communicating impact. You're doing all the work, it's so amazing. But at the end of the day, how do you communicate that to high level executive leadership team without sounding like you're saying BS, right? So you need to learn how to communicate your impact clearly. And don't forget, momentum beats perfection. Just keep going at a pace that works for you. And yeah, we are officially at the Q&A session. I did come up with a couple, not come up, I did put down a couple of questions that people asked when they were registering for this session. But I feel like I have covered most of them in this session. So I'm just going to go straight to the comment section to see. So if you're still here, how has your experience been like? What do you think the session has been like for you? Did you learn a thing or two? Is this a session that you would recommend to another person? Let me just hear your general feedback in the comments. So we have a question here from Ayomide. She says, regarding the community tools, especially for someone that's just starting as a community manager, what's the best way to learn these tools, especially if you're volunteering for a community that exists on WhatsApp, not Telegram, Slack, or Discord? Okay, so I need to think through that question. Regarding the community tools, especially for someone that's just starting out as a community, what's the best way to learn? How did you become a community manager? And how did you learn to become a community manager? That's my question to you. You obviously searched, you read an article somewhere, maybe someone posted something or you watched a video or something. That's basically how we learn. That's how everybody learns. So there are some tools that you can use in your community, and there's some tools you cannot use. There's some tools that can work for community A, there's some tools that can work for community B. So what I'll say to you is, first off, what kind of metrics are you trying to track? What kind of things are you trying to achieve? If you're trying to improve onboarding, to the community, you know, how are you going to do that? This gives you an idea of the kind of tools to use, and you just research. So the best way to learn is to first of all know what you want to use these tools for. You might not have a tool in mind, right? But think of it, what do I want to do in this community? So let me give you a typical case scenario. You said your community exists on WhatsApp, not Telegram. Now, if people are joining your community on WhatsApp, how do they join that community? Do you just randomly send links to them? Right. So you need to think through that process. For someone to be able to join this WhatsApp community, they should fill a form, right? A membership form. And this membership form helps me track certain data. I need to know who is joining. Is it male? Is it female? I need to know where they are joining from. I need to know why they are joining, and you also have access to their data, maybe their email address or whatever. And then when you're onboarding them, You can then use certain tools like, let's say, Zapier. Zapier is one automation tool that I love so much because I use them a lot. At this point, they should sign me as an ambassador. So I use Zapier a lot. It's an automation tool. You can link it with basically anything. You can link it with your Notion. You can link it with your Google Forms, your spreadsheet. You can link it with anything. Now you can automate a process that when people fill the form to join your WhatsApp community, it sends them an email, right? And even after they've joined the community, you also automate several email sequences. Okay, after joining the community, what do they get to do? How do they do this? Now, if you're trying to host an event, that's for Zapier. If you're trying to host an event, think of platforms that can help you. If it's a virtual event, think of platforms that can help you with proper engagement. You know, think of Butter. There's this platform that I use as well, Butter. It's a video platform, but it boosts engagement a lot because they have different things that can help you set up a very engaging session. So that's basically how to look out for tools to use within WhatsApp. You're not just going to be limited. I know that WhatsApp is very, very limited in terms of building communities. And if I am part of a community building process, I usually advise against it because you're not thinking of scalability. You're not thinking of how you move to the next level. Before WhatsApp increased the number of people that could join a particular group, or before they introduced communities and all of that, people had lots of issues where by the time the group reaches, I think 250 to 60, it is full. So people start migrating to other platforms, right? So you always have to think long term. You don't need to integrate tools within WhatsApp. Just use something. First of all, have a goal at the back of your mind and come up with tools, research, what tool can I use to do this? There's always ChatGPT for you, there's Google for you. What tool can I use to achieve this? And then you're going to get tool suggestions and you use that. So I hope I answered your question, Ayomide. Um, let's see. Sylvia says, could you kindly clarify for complete beginner in community management, what would be the best way to show that one is ready to learn via volunteering and internships? I'm asking because some organizations may have expectations, even for someone who has no experience. Okay, let me go back to the first one. So, again, now, what would you be the best way to show that one is ready to learn via volunteering? So, I feel like your question is a bit conflicting because you're saying here, what would be the best way to show that one is ready to learn via volunteering and internships? And then, secondly, you're also saying because organizations may have expectations, even for someone who has no experience. Even when a community has expectation, right, for someone who has no experience, is that not a sign that they believe in you? Except I'm misunderstanding your question. So I'm going to answer it in two parts. If you find yourself in this situation, first off, it's a sign that they believe in you enough to want to give you something to do. So it's your duty to take up that responsibility of learning on your head. Learn like your life depends on it, right? Then the other part of this, the other angle that I'm going to answer this is that the best way to show that you're ready to learn via volunteering and internships is to just start. You don't have to just volunteer or join an internship. You can build something for yourself. Find something that you're passionate about. You could be passionate about baking. You could be passionate about whatever it is that you're passionate about. You can build a community around that. You could be passionate about healthy food, healthy eating, whatever it is. It could be anything and everything. At the end of the day, it's the ability for you to show that you can do this thing, right? So the best way is to start something. If you don't have an opportunity to volunteer or join an internship, build your own. Build your own. That's one way you can show that you're ready, so that when you move to a company to say I want to intern or I want to volunteer, this is what I have been able to do so far. They can see that you're not just someone that is saying, I want to volunteer or I want to intern. They see that you've already started the work and they'll be willing to give you the opportunity. So I hope I answered your question, Sylvia. If I didn't, please let me know. Um, so we have one from David. He's asking, please, ma'am, how do we set boundaries as community managers? This is a very, I was about to say this is a very wonderful question. Thank you very much for that question. I don't know who brought up that whole thank you very much for that question. Anytime someone asks a question. But here's what I want to say to you, David. Why do you want to establish a boundary? I know I've mentioned it in this session and you need to establish healthy boundaries, right? So work with me. Think of it this way. Why do I need to establish a boundary? What is currently going on, right? I'm going to use myself as a case study so I can better paint a picture of why I'm asking that question. I currently manage a community of over 60,000 women across Africa. Somehow, a couple of men have slipped in and we're filtering them out. But here's the thing, back to the question. I cannot, it's not possible for me to be available to almost 60 or over 60,000 people at the same time. Yes, I have a teammate who is doing an amazing work. And even with both of us, we cannot still be available to over 60,000 people at the same time. So, how do we set boundaries? Sometimes people can reach out to you at odd hours, 9 p.m., 10 p.m. I'm supposed to be sleeping. So, first of all, depending on what you're doing, when does your work start? When does your work end? If you're a 9 to 5 person, okay, you're not so obligated to respond to a community message, you know, after work hours, right? So what you can do is you can set um reminders or you can set your notifications. Okay, from 5 p.m. I'm out of us office, right? So I may not really be available to respond to your claims until the following day. That's one clear boundary that you can set. That's why I said you need to first of all ask yourself, why do I need to set this boundary? What kind of boundary do I want to set? If you don't want people to be contacting you after work hours, you need to be able to say, okay, I'm available for this time to this time to answer all of your questions and attend to you. But after this time, my responses might be a bit slower. Now, you might be someone that will still be available to answer those questions or attend to community needs even after work hours. I do that a lot because I just genuinely love community building, right? And I love the people that I'm building the community for. So, like, even if I see a message by, let's say, 10 p.m., I could respond because the community I am managing, consists of people from different time zones. So that might be their morning and this is my evening. So I am not biased in terms of time. I'm only biased in terms of how much you engage me after my work hours, right? That's typical scenario one. Scenario two, someone can just randomly send you a message or send you a document on WhatsApp or chatting. You can tell the person, please send out an email, because this email will help you generate a trail of conversations so that at the end of the day, nobody will come and accuse you and say, David, I told you this and you did not answer me. Yada, yada, yada. And you can then go back to your email and say, but we have an email trail. We had this conversation via mail and I sent this document or I explicitly said this, right? So these are sample boundaries that you can set as a community manager. Because you are a people person, does not mean that people should have that much access to you. You're also a human being and needs your space and needs your privacy. So first of all, think of the why, and then it will help you come up with different things that you can set as boundaries. Um, I hope I answered your question, David. Please let me know in the comments. So we have another one for, I see the amazing comments. Thank you so much, everyone. So I have another one here from Olabami, and she's saying, "You said we should build publicly. Is like, is that like farming engagement from the social first, and also which platform is best to build publicly?" Ah, Olabami, I'm gonna call you Bami. Please, Ejo. I didn't talk about farming engagement. Remove that from your mind, please. I am begging you. Don't farm engagement. Don't post on social media because you're looking for engagement. If you post on social media because you're looking for engagement, trust me, you're going to give up before you even start, right? Zero your mind. When I post on social media, I don't always look at my posts as, in fact, I'm always the first person to like my posts. For anybody that follows me actively on social media, you would realize that for everything I post, there's always one like before you even get to read it. And that is me. I like my post and I move on, right? So don't look out for engagement. Post because you're looking for visibility. I need to tell you quick story, very quick story. I know we're far behind time. This was supposed to be a 1 hour session, and I haven't even touched the questions in the slide. But I had a situation. I had joined this HNG internship a while back, and I completed that internship with my phone. So I was basically just borrowing laptops and trying to complete each of the tasks. And for most of you that have joined Hotels with NG internship, you know how intensive it can be. After that internship, I started posting and tweeting and all of that. There's one popular tech figure that followed me back then, popular tech person in Nigeria. And I was just wondering, this one that this person is following me. Me, I don't have anything to offer to you. So I just followed back, obviously, and we didn't say anything because like I'm usually starstruck when I meet people. Like I don't know what to say. In as much as I'm a talkative, I'm a very shy person. If you meet me outside, or if I see someone outside, I might not walk up to that person to want to have a conversation, except to walk up to me. And even at that, it's going to be a very awkward situation. So this person followed me. I followed him back. I would just be in connections. Sometimes like the person will like my post, sometimes he won't. And then fast forward to 2, 3 years after, he sends me the first hi. I'm looking for two front end developers. Can you make a suggestion? I said, okay. I went back to my community. Hi, everybody. A friend is looking for this, that, 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 that. I got 2 persons for him. And they came back another time. Did the same thing. I was like, Bella, do I need to enter your DM every time I am looking to hire someone? That's how we exchange contacts. And the day we finally met, he asked me, say, has it ever crossed your mind why I followed you? I said, it has, oh, but who am I to ask? And then he said something really important. He said, I've been following your work back to back, and I like the fact that you have been very consistent. Sometimes when you're absent from the timeline, I notice it. And that struck me because like this person doesn't even like my posts. It was then self that used to like my posts. Nowadays, like they don't even like my post again, right? So like it's got me thinking. So you see my post and you don't like it, you don't share it to your audience. Is that no wickedness? Right. So that's one very important lesson that I learned, that people see what you're doing. They are not necessarily liking, they're not necessarily posting. I think one of the things that should be your joy should be the impressions. So if you're posting on Twitter, for instance, just check the impressions, check the analytics. How many people actually saw this post? Don't look out for engagement, don't look out for likes. There's somebody watching you. Just be very consistent, right? And there's no best platform, to be very honest. You can use LinkedIn, you can use Twitter. I mean, these are the two popular platforms that tech people thrive on. You can even use YouTube. You can anywhere that works for you. Just make sure that you're very consistent at it. Bami, and don't farm engagement. Thank you very much. Let me see. I see here butter as in butter. Yes, butter. It's a tool. So if you just Google that, you would see. Maybe I could. I'm going to check the link. Butter.us. I'm going to paste that for you here in the comment section. Okay, so I just pasted that for the person that asks if what the platform is. Butter.us. Yes, that's it. So we have a question here from Adiola. Just starting out as a community manager, as I have been offered a role, I have been open enough to let them know I'm just a beginner. Is it advisable I take this role? What's the ideal pay? Hmm. I like the fact that you're very truthful to let by letting them know that you're a beginner. That's very bold of you. And yes, you should take the role if you've been offered the role, even after letting them know you're a beginner. That's a great sign for you to see that a company sees the potential in you. They see that you are someone that acknowledges your current state and are ready to work towards it. So the first step is acknowledgement, which you have. The second step is to actually start working. So you're going to be doing a lot of research, you're going to be doing a lot of learning on the job, which is very valid. That is where you need to be booking a lot of coffee chats with people that you look up to in community management. If you get stuck or you run into an issue, reach out to another community manager that you know. The best thing for you to do is to learn on the job. For everybody watching and listening to me, yes, I started off community management as a volunteer, where I volunteered to build the Figma design community in Rio. And I was just an advocate, right? I was just an advocate before I became a regional lead. I moved from being just an advocate for Friends of Figma Uyo, as at that time it was Figma Uyo, to being a regional lead, managing over 40 plus communities within Africa, to having to experience working in a team where they were like just one girl or three girls, plus me, who were three, and more than 30 something men, to being in a situation where I had to work with people that most of them don't speak English. It was a new experience for me because I was just here in my humble city in Uyo, managing a group of designers like me because I was actively designing at the time and just trying to drive engagement. And now I had to step up and manage the region. I had to step up and make sure that the people that speak French, the people that speak Swahili are carried along. So I learned a lot in the process. Like most of my roles that I've ever occupied as a community manager, I had to grow into that role while leading or while working in that role. Same thing happened to me when I joined Phase. You know, I joined Phase as a community and marketing manager, and then I already had the experience of managing people from Figma. So joining Phase as a community and marketing manager, I was also heavily involved in the marketing aspect. I had never been involved in marketing before. I had to start developing I had to start learning how to write standard operating procedures. You know, if creating like launch plans, country launch plans. You know, we're launching this product in this country, we're launching here, we're launching in this region. So it was a whole lot of learning and relearning, onboarding influencers, how to keep influence. I had to learn customer relationship management tools. So like the roles that you occupy come with different lessons. They come with different things. Now I'm working at She Code Africa. I've never worked in an NGO before, and I'm trying to understand how does it work. You know, there's a whole lot of work with NGOs. So people that are in the NGO space, like NGO comes with a lot of work, comes with a lot of responsibility. So like I had to learn a lot in the process. So do not be scared because you are an entry level person. You just need to be open enough to learn along the way. You know, take on tools, ask for advice. Then in terms of ideal pay, I typically just say ask around. I can't give you an exact amount, right? You need to know what the pay gap or the pay range of that company is. You could probably just ask the colleagues there, you know, make a research about it. Glassdoor offers that kind of, you know, research. You can check Glassdoor to see what the pay range is usually like for this particular company. You can ask questions, you can do your own research, and then keep it minimal. And if it is a role that if it's a role where you are allowed to bargain on your salary, please bargain. Do not accept the first amount that you're presented with. Okay, so that's it for the questions in the comments. And then for the ones that people asked during registration, so I'm going to try to be as fast as I can because we are over 60 minutes late. How do communities work? How to keep community active, psychological aspects of community management, how to track engagement, activity. I feel like I've talked about this a greater chunk. I just copied and pasted this from the form. So for future live streams, please make sure you all tailor your questions properly. So how do communities work? So in terms of psychological aspects, people are looking for a place where they feel welcome, people a place where they feel like they belong, a place where they feel like it's family. So you have to build a safe space for your community members, right? And in terms of tracking engagement and activity, you can use spreadsheets to track. If you don't have access to those advanced tools, you need to first of all check, how do I want to engage my community? What are the activities I want to use to engage my community? And then you begin your tracking from there. How do you keep your community active? It boils down to value. What value are you giving to your community? So that's one way you keep your community active. If you're constantly providing value to them, then they would stay. How do you manage conflicts and coordinate communities? Uh, I forgot to paste this resume link. So for those that wanted to work on their resume, the link is in the comments. So how do you manage conflict and coordinate communities? Conflict, mm, I think it varies. So first off, make sure you have documentation in place. Make sure you have an escalation plan. If something happens, what's the first thing you do? What's the second thing you do? What's the third thing you do? You have to address this, internally, address it privately, reach out to the parties involved, and then also guide them back to the community guidelines, and try to maintain peace. How to get more community members, how to reduce churn, how to ensure smooth engagement and tool adoption. I think it boils down to value, to be honest. My only answer to this question is value. So it's the person that asks this question. My only answer is value. What value are you giving to your community members? That's how you get more community members, because then word of mouth goes out, right? How do you reduce churn? Churn rate is completely a normal thing in a community. Life happens, things shift, people leave at some point. So it's completely normal, but a way you can reduce this still ties back to the kind of value you're providing to them. If something happens, let's say I get married, I put to bed, I'm on maternity leave, so obviously you're not expecting me to be active in the community. By the time I'm off from maternity leave, I want to come back because I know what I was getting. All right, so I want to come back, I want to reconnect with the community. So it boils down to value. And I have talked about engagement and tool adoption. Then we have how to build a community of 10,000 people within. I don't know what this person's goal is. And you want to build a community of 10,000 people within 3 months. I mean, it's achievable, but I wish you all the best. Let's do a little calculation. 10,000 divided by 3. That is approximately, you can see my screen, approximately 3,333 people. So you are expecting to reach at least, you're expecting to add at least 3,300 people into your community every single month. Now, how do you want to attract these people? What kind of value are you giving to them? I mean, even if you're looking for a community of 20,000 people in 2 months, trust me, you'll get it. But what kind of value are you giving to them? How are you going to keep them engaged and sustained? Gone are the days where communities look at numbers, where companies look at numbers. It's not about you having 10,000 people in your community. What's the value you're giving to them? How are you sustaining them? And how are they helping you achieve your business goals? By the time you build your sustainability plan, let's say from the point someone joins your community to after 3 months, what's the sustainability plan like? What's their journey like? One thing that I started experimenting last year and I've been advising other community managers to do is design your community members' journey from the point of entry after week one, after month one, after month two. There has to be a journey. I have to feel like I'm entering an intentional space that has been designed for me. That's the only way you can get my time, my attention, right? And you'll be able to achieve what you want. So instead of looking at numbers, I would say to you, think of sustainability. Why do you want 10,000 people in 3 months? What are they coming to do? How are you going to engage them? If you have all these things mapped out, then you start creating value. That's how you attract people. And then instead of saying 10,000 people in 3 months, further break it down. This is approximately, let's say, 130 something every day. So if you can get 130 something people every day into your community, it's possible for you to achieve that. Or you can further break it down every week. I want to be able to get this XYZ number of people. How can I learn remote gigs and experience with an experience as a customer service representative? No. Can I really land a remote gig? Yes, you can. I know a couple of persons that work remotely as a customer service representative. You just need to be qualified. You need to know how to speak. You need to know how to handle crisis. Hope you're not somebody that gets angry easily because customer service work, God is your strength. You need to be able to troubleshoot issues. You need to have a good environment. You need to have good lighting. You need to have light. You need to have internet. Just prepare yourself for the remote space and start applying for jobs. So, yes, it is very possible because I've seen a couple of persons that I know personally thrive in that field. How to handle members' response and engagement. This person didn't ask this question well, but I think I've talked about engagement. But in terms of responses, no matter what happens, always respond with empathy, always respond with clarity. Sometimes people are just going through tough times, right? And they just want to push it on you, push it on you. It can be bad, but trust me, whatever happens, if you're not in that headspace to manage conversations professionally and with empathy, you can take a step back. You can take a step back and so you feel all right. So always handle conversations with empathy. And for engagement, I've talked about engagement. Now, this person is saying, how do you deal with clients feeling like you're too small to handle tasks, maybe because of your age and all? I once got a job, and the comment was that I was too young to handle it, right? I wasn't given a chance to do my thing, learn on the job and make mistakes. I understand that some people aren't willing to hire anyone who's not proficient in that area, and you're obviously trying to gain the experience, but there's no platform to practicalize what you've learned. How do you manage it all? First of all, because you're small does not mean that you don't know your work. I feel like that's probably happened because you don't have enough evidence to show that you can handle a certain responsibility. So focus on building. Don't dwell on saying because you're small or because you just started. I think you should focus on building your skills. Focus on making contributions. Focus on having proof of work. That way, people, when someone sees what you do and sees your track record, they'll confidently hire you, whether you're small or not. Right. And don't just look out for companies that will give you a chance and say, oh, okay, we know that you're small, we know that you don't have experience, but come and work for us or come and do this. You know, you need to put yourself out there. And just like I mentioned, if you don't have an opportunity to volunteer or have an opportunity to intern to build your skills, then join other communities, reach out to other community managers, opt in to help them do one or two things, build your skills, talk about it. If you sent an email and someone responded, you can post the context. So, for instance, I think sometime last year when I resumed at Code Africa, I noticed that our churn rate was so bad. So I had to start an activation message where I sent activation messages to community members. So like I divided into two. The ones that were active, the ones that were inactive. And some of the people that were inactive that I sent out a message to, you know, responded. It was an email activation. And they responded. Some of them posted it on social media. I screenshotted it, Chakam, posted it on my page, and I wrote a story around it. Like, this is why this is why I sent out this email, this activation email, and this was the response I got, or this is how people perceived it. Those are little ways of showing the work that you've done, right? So focus on building your skills, focus on getting proof of work, and then volunteer in communities, offer to assist, offer to help out someone. Make sure you don't just volunteer blindly. You should tie back to your goal, your career goal. See, if you're not doing anything that helps a business achieve their business goal, they're going to lay you off. So it's the same way you should think about yourself. If you're not doing something that helps your career goal, you have no business being in that place, right? So volunteer, and if you don't have any of these opportunities, create something for yourself. Create your own community around your passion. Okay, and this is the last set of questions. How can I make people want to join a community? How do I make people want to do what the founder of the community wants? And where can I apply for jobs as a community manager? How can I build a good this person? Anyway, I'm grateful. So in terms of building a good resume and portfolio, I've already talked about that. So you may go back to watch that section again. And I've also talked about so applying, where to apply for jobs. I don't know if I really touched about this, but LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great place to apply for jobs. Just search, just same way you search for people's name. Just search we're hiring a community manager. Just use different keywords that recruiters could use, to search for jobs, and you'll be able to do that. So you see people that are posting, and then there are also other people that usually repost. There's also Product Hunt. So if you go to Product Hunt website, check out companies that are launching their products, go to their careers page. It's very tasking, but it's very rewarding. Go to their careers page, check for what they are hiring for, and apply for roles. You can go to Y Combinator, just check and then put it out there that you are searching for a job. Someone would always see it, repost it. Someone will always, refer you. Join communities, post your work, talk about it. People would always be interested in what you're doing. One thing you shouldn't do, just like I mentioned earlier, is rely heavily on job boards, right? Always check the company's website to be sure that they are actually hiring. Most of the opportunities that I've had, which I'm so grateful to God for, has always been either through direct outreach or through referrals. So like I recently spoke to someone and said, "Oh, you came highly recommended for this role." Like, okay. The person that even talked about me, the potential of me interviewing for that role, I don't know that person before. Like, but they've seen my work on the timeline. They've been a part of communities I've managed. And they're like, if you have to get someone, it has to be Bella. And I'm so grateful for opportunities like that. So I've had situations like that where, referral tops it for me. I don't think I've ever had a situation where I applied to a job board and I got a job. So like it's always been someone referring me, or the company reaching out, or somebody reaching out, "Oh, I have this role that I'd like you to fill," and then you go ahead and do the interview. If you pass the interview, perfect. If you don't pass, it simply means that you were not qualified for that particular role, or you don't have a skill that they're looking for. So, how do I make people want to do what the founder of the community wants? First of all, do not forget that you're managing people. People have emotions. People don't expect you to push them around. So the way you frame this question, how do I make people want to do what the founder of the community wants, sounds absurd. But to answer that question, I would say when coming up with community activities, initiatives, and all that, tie it back to the business goal, because obviously there's a business goal. That's what the founder wants. They want to achieve this. So tie back your activities, your engagements to the business goal. Make sure that the values that you are providing to the community will help you achieve those business goals for your organization. That's just the only way. Value. How can WhatsApp be used to build communities such as group chats and channels, active communities with higher participation? To be honest, community manager, I would not advise anybody to build a community on WhatsApp. It's great. They're adapting. The tool is great, but people are already used to WhatsApp as an instant messaging platform. That is where my close friends reach out to me through. That is where people reach out to me, even though nowadays I've been MIA on WhatsApp. But people are already used to, there's something called perception, there's something called familiarity in UX. I know I've chipped in some design principles here and there, but I have been a designer. I worked as a product designer before transitioning to community, so don't be shocked. But there's something called familiarity in UX. Imagine you go to an e-commerce website and you already know that you can browse through, all these products that you want before you even decide to buy any. Even when you add them to cart, before you're able to buy, that's when you'll be asked to sign up. You go to Temo, it's the same thing. You go to Shein, it's the same thing. You go to Jumia, it's the same thing. You go to Amazon, it's the same thing. There's familiarity in UX. If there's another e-commerce platform coming out now, it's most likely going to follow that same pattern. It's the same thing as WhatsApp. The way it was launched, people are already used to it being an instant messaging platform. Now, it's a bit difficult transitioning it from being that to building a community. Communities are more structured. If you're building a larger community, you want to speak to the front end developers. You want to be able to go to front end development. You want to be able to check the design channel. You want to be able to check the cybersecurity channel. And WhatsApp doesn't have that ability currently to keep those things organized for you. I know, like, you can see all of that. You can create your groups, add it under one community, but that whole interface can get you confused, right? So if you're trying to build a community from scratch, I wouldn't advise you to start off your community from WhatsApp. And another reason why you shouldn't is because they are not also integrated into, like, you cannot integrate third party apps that can help you manage your communities more effectively. You should, however, use WhatsApp if the community you're building, or the brand you're using, or the people that use your product, are people that mostly use WhatsApp. If you're mostly if you're building a community for people that are not interested in all these advanced tools, then WhatsApp is your best bet. I'm not condemning using WhatsApp. I'm just saying, first of all, think about what kind of community you're building, what kind of value or services you're offering, what that product is about. Then you can decide if WhatsApp is the best or not. I posted a link into a video that I created about you checking your community platforms. So you may want to check that out. Then how to get active community members and tools to share information without being online daily. So I would say schedule. That's why you need to use more advanced community platforms. Schedule your activities and then recruit volunteers within your community. So one very important thing that we do at Chico Africa is to have channel leads. So, like, we have lots of channels, but then I can't possibly be in all of those channels at the same time, attending to each of the messages. So now we have our secondary community managers who are channel leads. So these channel leads have knowledge on what's going on in each of those channels. So like if you meet the cybersecurity channel lead or meet the design channel lead, you already know what's going on. So recruit community members within the organization to also help you out. You will burn out if you try to do everything yourself. Schedule messages and announcements. And I think that's just the way to go about it. Does it get easier when you started? How was it? I think it was easier when I started. Now it's getting more difficult because now I have to start thinking about the business. When I started, it was just me bringing people together for them to learn design. Now I have to start thinking about the business. I have to start thinking of people signing up. I have to start thinking of, you know, moving people through e- each phase successfully. I have to start thinking of how that what I'm doing within the community ties back to the business goal. I have to start thinking of how it attracts partners. So I would say it's becoming more tasking than it was when I started, but it's actually very fulfilling. This person says how to convert community members to subscribers. So about this, think of it like you're designing a pricing plan. For products that have pricing plans, there is a free version and there is a paid version. And in most cases, you see the paid version, they say everything you see on free and more. So why should they subscribe? That answers your question. Why should they subscribe? You're already getting this for free. What's that one thing, or what two thing, three, four? What's that one thing that should make them move from this stage to this stage? Um the importance of using AI tools to enhance the role that comes as a community manager. I think I have already talked about this in the earlier stage of this session, so you may want to go back and watch this video again. But it's actually really important. AI tools help you manage conversations, help you schedule, you know, work on documents, help you optimize, help you with a lot of things, basically. I mean, nowadays there are even products that you can build with just prompts. You may want to just decide to quickly use a particular AI tool to build something that helps you with engagement within your community. So, like, the opportunities are endless. Just think of what you want to do and then research about it and do it. At what point am I ready to get paid as a community manager? I would say when you have proof that you can do something, when you have proof that you can engage a community, when you have proof that you can keep people on a call, or if you're hosting a virtual session, when you have proof that you can improve systems, when you have proof that you can create documents. So, like, at the end of the day, it's about your proof of work, because it boils down to, okay, what can I give to you? What value can I give to you? Right. So when you have proof of your work, proof of what you can do, then you're ready to get paid. And it doesn't have to be lots of proof. How do I position myself for global community management opportunities? Join communities, book coffee chats with other people, learn from their experience, talk about your work, post your work. See, you're not going to hide in your shell for global communities or global opportunities to come meet you in the house. Post about your work. Whenever you apply for a job, for people that use free version on LinkedIn, if somebody views your profile, you definitely get a notification that someone viewed your profile, right? So post about your work. You applied for a job, they are going to, trust me, they are going to search. They want to know who you are, right? Because a community manager is like an ambassador. You're the face of the company. So they want to know who you are. They want to know, see the things that you have been saying on the timeline. And they want to see how you carry yourself. So post your work, post your achievements, post the impacts of what you're creating, talk about it. Put yourself in foreign communities, put yourself in other communities outside of your local communities, network with other community managers, network with other people book coffee chats with them, get to learn from their experience, and also share that you are open up to opportunities. Um, Finally, advice about managing Web3 communities and moving into that space. So, for Web3 communities, it's pretty much the same way as managing Web2 communities. The only difference is you need to understand how Web3 works. You need to understand the terms, how those different terminals. Me, I'm a Web2 girly. I know how Web3 works. I can successfully manage a Web3 community. So you need to understand what Web3 is in the first place. How does it connect? Right. At the end of the day, in Web2, you're building products for Web2 focused companies. In Web3, you're building products for Web3 focused companies. So you need to understand how Web3 works, the company you're building for, what they do, and how you can translate that into the community through activities that you come up with. And how to move into that space is basically join Web3 communities. Join Web3 communities. They usually post opportunities in those communities. So you join these communities, check out, you can speak to the community manager. They usually have, like, every community has a job section. So in Web3 communities, like, most of the opportunities that are being posted are usually Web3 focused, right? You're not going to expect to join a full blown Web2 community and see Web3 opportunities. They might be there, but very rare. So join Web3 communities, network with other Web3 people. But in terms of the structure and how communities are managed, it's basically the same thing as what happens in Web2. You just need to know how Web3 works and the company that you're looking to. You can also pitch yourself, pitch your services. You can start by becoming an ambassador for most of these Web3 companies. I think Polygon used to have an ambassador program. There's Polydot. There are so many Web3 companies that offer ambassadorial programs. So that's how you transition. You first of all become an ambassador, start talking about the tool. From there, you can ease into the role as a community manager. All right. On a final note, I did post the playlist in the comment section. So check out the playlist. I do have a playlist on community management, and I have pending videos that I will be posting as well. So if you haven't seen that yet, check out the playlist on my YouTube to learn more about community management. Let me know in the comments what kind of topic you'd like to see next, what kind of sessions that you'd like to be seeing. And also, I am giving a 50% off my LinkedIn optimization and resume writing services to 10 people, right? And this code will expire letters on the 16th of January. So if you're interested, I posted the link in the comments. It's also in the description. Use this code BACM50 to get 50% off and lock in your spot. Because this year, your resume is not going to land in the dustbin. And then I'm going to share an anonymous feedback form. So feel free to fill that out. And thank you everyone for joining this session. I hope you had an amazing time. I hope I was able to answer your questions. I hope you learned a lot. Let me know what your overall feedback is about this session, the things you learned, what your takeaways are. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. So I do post videos every Wednesday and Sunday at 4 p.m. West African time. So stay tuned and see you. And one final announcement, I have a live stream upcoming next month on becoming a freelancer, a successful freelancer in 2026. So guess in the comments, let's know who you think is going to be on that live stream. And if you have any questions about freelancing, once the RSVP is out, make sure you fill out the RSVP and ask for questions. Our speaker will be answering those questions during the session. And yeah, more details on that coming soon. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Bye and see ya.